So once again, my name is Jimmy O'Connor. I'm the Executive Director of the Second Story Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit that works in the substance use disorder space. And I am here with my good friend Joe to just talk a little bit about the long-term, truly long-term sobriety program that he and I both were part of, and just get his thoughts and his experience, strength, and hope. And so, Joe, good to see you.
Thanks for having me, Jimmy.
So I'll start out with like we have with the other guys. Tell me about what your life was like before you went into treatment, before it became too much.
Before I went to the inpatient, I was homeless and begging on the streets. I had kids that I was not in their lives, and it was really in no one's life. No one wanted anything to do with me, and looking back now, I understood why, because I was not worthy person to want to know or be around. And literally sleeping in abandoned buildings, waking up sick and begging for money. Had nothing. It was not a good life. I was going weeks without showering. I didn't have steady meals. I had lost everything in my life, and at the time, they were all acceptable losses to me.
So you got yourself to stepping stones, right?
Yeah.
How'd you do that?
So my sister, who's always been my biggest supporter, I got arrested a couple months before I actually went into rehab, and when I got out, she wanted me to go to rehab. She was making all these calls, and I came up with every excuse not to go, and I ended up, staying out on the streets, living that way for a few more months, and one day I just woke up and said, this sucks. I need to do something different, and I made a call to Stepping Stones, and they were gracious enough to take me. And the next morning, I woke up and on my own walked. It was only about like an hour walk. Walked into Stepping Stones, and even the lady there said, "You walk this far, you might make it." And at the time, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I got this," and I did not know what I was in store for.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, at the time, I didn't know what sobriety or recovery looked like. So when she said I got it, that I was gonna make it, and I wasn't sure what to expect, and this has been a crazy journey.
Right, from all the way there.
From where I was now to where I'm at today.
So, was it Bob that told you to call?
Yeah, luckily I got into Stepping Stones. Bob was he ran the Stepping Stones program, and he happened to go to school with a guy who was affiliated with the center. So when I got there, I stayed there, and he asked me what I wanted to do. And in my mind at the time, I did not believe I could ever stay sober in Joliet. I thought it was Joliet that was ruining my life, and that I needed to get away from it. So he mentioned the place called the Center, and asked me if I wanted to go there. And at the time, I had nothing to lose. I had nothing. So leaving town, going to a farm in Palos Park, sounded like a sure why not thing.
So what do you remember about meeting me?
So the interview, it was intimidating. I was nervous because I really, really wanted it. So I go in there, and I'm giving you probably all the same thing you hear from all the interviews. I'm just feeding you BS. And, at the time, I just wanted to get in, so I would have told you whatever you wanted to hear. But I remember meeting you, and, one of the things you asked, what was I willing to do? Was I willing to do anything? And at the time, I said yes. But in the back of my mind, and, I kind of didn't want to get in, because if I didn't get in, well, hey, I tried. Let me just go to this other place that's not long term. I can go get a job. And probably even deeper in the back of my mind, knew that let me go get somewhere, and then I'll just go back to living how I was living. But you guys were gracious enough to allow me there, and that started the real journey.
So that program, you showed up day one. You were on the farm, right?
Yeah.
So you got a shovel. What was that like?
For me, I did not. I told you I was begging. I was not working for my money. There was no honorable day's work. None of that. I woke up, did whatever and anything to get what I wanted, and that was it. So when I went to there, you guys told me how to work on the farm. I go there. I was not a fan of animals at the time, but again, my options were limited. I went there, he was handing me a shovel, and you know the work wasn't difficult. It was fairly simple, and it gave me, you know, I know you mentioned a lot about purpose. You know, waking up and taking care of the animals. That was rewarding in itself, and also it gave me, you know, got me back into the working routine, which is something I hadn't been in a long time.
How was it? What was your experience of being on a farm?
Coming from Joliet, it was an experience that I never thought I would go through. You know, I was lucky enough. The people who actually worked on the farm were great people, and you know, they made my job. You know, sometimes it didn't really feel like a job, and so that was nice. And you know, again, just the caring for these animals. Like I told you, I wasn't an animal person. By the end of my time working at the farm, I was an animal person. I tell everyone there that there's a horse. It's probably my favorite horse, and I always tell the guys.
Who was it?
Pepper.
Pepper. All
I
right.
actually made a sign for him. I tell him all the time, make sure you give Pepper extra food, because that's not something I would have said I was an animal person when I first got there. I was not, and I kind of went there and did what I was told to do. But towards the end, it became much less. It didn't really feel like a job. It was just you know, kind of just became a routine.
So if I remember right, you got there before COVID, and then we had to shut it down.
Yeah, so I got there in January. When you know, started venturing out into the area, meeting people, and you know, a month into it, the world shut down. And I remember telling you that I was in the best possible place I could have been for COVID to happen. Like I didn't have to worry about food, job, housing, none of that. It was all given to me, and you know, I just had to do my part, you know, to earn it. And you know, so the world shut down, and I was blessed enough to be around, you know, a great community of people and a good group of guys there. So I was still, you know, surrounded by recovery. So while some people weren't able to do, you know, go out into the world and go to meetings, it was all Zoom. We had in-house meetings, and I also think that us being, you know, kind of locked in together made us the bond stronger than, you know, had we all kind of been able to go out and do our own things. So.
What was the hardest part of getting through the program for you, aside from not being able to play Pokemon Go?
The hardest part, I think it was time. You know, I wanted it to go by quicker, and I seen these guys with more and more time than me, and I wanted to be where they were at. And I didn't understand that to get where they were at, I had to go through all they went through to get to that time. Like I remember going into meetings and seeing guys talk about getting their 2 or 3 year coins, and I'm like, man, I was jealous of them. Like they had done the thing, you know, for that long, and I was new, and you know, I didn't want to go through the process. I wanted to just.
I want 1 year and 6 months.
Yeah, and so I think that was a hard thing for me.
You and I talked about that a lot. I was interested to talk to you about this today because I remember asking you a lot. Just stay here a little longer. Just stay in phase 1, right? And before going out to get a job, like stay a little longer. What was like that for you?
Oh, frustrating, because I always felt like I was ready to move on, but the best thing about the long-term treatment for me was I had nothing together. When I came there, I didn't have a driver's license, I didn't have my GED, you know, I was having problems, my teeth were messed up. I mean, like, I
almost forgot.
Yeah, right? The smile was not cheap. So like I didn't have a car, but I wanted to go out and do all these things. And the best thing about you having me wait was that while I was waiting, I was working on things that I wouldn't have had time to had I not. Like in that time, I was got my teeth done. I was able to get my license. I was able to get my GED while still, you know, in the thing. And also, by the time right before I moved to phase 2, I was able to get a car. So that time gave me time to get all the things I needed for when I left and moved up to phase 2. I was in the best possible position to, you know, go out and look for work and be able to do all these things responsibly. Not to mention, the more time I had to work on myself and my sobriety, so when I went out into the world, I could face it. And you know, that was something because I was scared of the world. I hid from it, and I hid from it through drugs. So I had to learn how to face the world sober. And the more time I got, the more I learned.
I remember you were talking about to crack, and I want to hear your version of this because I remember not like trying to figure out how to get through to you. And if I remember right, I looked at you one day and said, "Hey, would you want a whole new set of demo work if we could do it?" And in my memory, you looked at me like I was robbing you.
It was just weird. Like, I'm still not used to people coming up and wanting to help and not wanting anything in return. So when it came, I always felt like there was strings attached with it. And I soon after learned that there were no strings attached. It was literally a question that came from your heart. And, it was amazing. And it ended up, what it did for me is I couldn't even put into words. I remember after it all happened, you had me write a little thing to all the people that helped with it, and it truly was a confidence booster. I was able to go into the world and smile. I would like to think I'm a funny person, and I like to make people smile. I like to smile, but before that, I was ashamed to smile. So, I can go out into the world today and brighten the world with my smile.
That was that was a life changer for me to see you go through that experience. That did worlds for me. There's the strings attached are me calling in these favors now, like doing an interview with me, right? What was the best part of being in a long-term program for you?
Best part, at the time when I was there, it was getting to know people and building real friendships. I was looking out to find my best friend, roommate in there still. I was able to over time get a relationship back with my daughter, or one of them. And, a little bit more time, more effort, I was able to get a relationship with my other daughter. And the best time there was that I felt like I was growing as a person, and people seen it, and my family seen it, and I got a lot of things back, material things. But the best thing I got was, friendship, and I was able to, hold my head high and know that I can be proud of the person I was. You say all the time, if you want self-esteem, do esteemable things. And over that time, I had done a fair amount of esteemable things, and I was proud of the person I was, and I didn't have to be ashamed of where I came from, because I knew that that person wasn't who I was today.
So I'm going to put you out on a limb because I think I know the answer to this. In real time, like if you go back and you put yourself back in the time you were there, did you see all those things each day?
No, I did not. And it's so I remember we had a talk one day, when you were there, you used to sit out at the farm and just think of how amazing it is that you were there. And sometimes you need to just take a moment and be in the present and realize where you are and how lucky you are to be there. And I never do that. Still, I don't always do that. And the few slim in between times that I do, it's, it really is amazing the life I live today. But also, I wish I could have done that when I was there and took more appreciation for it. And, maybe got a little bit closer with some more people. Because I was not a very open person. I find, a few people and I stick with them. And I kind of wish now looking back that I would put in more effort with more people. You
had a lot of people that loved you. I think the bigger point that I saw was that all those things that you just described were happening, all those wonderful things, right? You just don't always know it in the moment. And it seems like another 4 months is forever. Another 4 or 5 months, 3 months is forever. Did it seem like forever by the time you moved out? Although with you probably, yeah, you were there, 2 years?
I was there for 2 years. I like to say I was a special case because of COVID.
Yeah. You're still a special case.
I think at first, no, because COVID, there was no real options in the outside world. Once the world kind of opened back up, and I had been there long, it went really fast looking back, but at the time it felt like every day. Sometimes some days would just drag and other days would fly by. But I just knew that when the time came for me to phase up, I would be able to do it and do it right. And I owe it all to that time. And at the time, I didn't see it. I thought for some reason you just really, really liked me and you never wanted to leave.
That was true too. I did not want you to leave.
But I mean, yeah, it definitely time, the guy, Mike, he always says, you know, take advantage of the time you're there because it goes by really fast. And when I heard that, I thought he was full of it. And, you know, looking back now, time went by a lot faster than I think it did.
So, before you went to Stepping Stones in Joliet, getting arrested, homeless, sleeping in abandoned buildings, begging for money, where's your life? How long have you been sober now?
I had 4 years in December.
4 years. And what's your life like now?
My life now, I work in a union. I got a union job, which has a pension and a real retirement future for me, which is amazing. I am in both of my daughter's lives. I have friends today. I am accountable. I have an apartment that I'm able to pay for. I have a car that I also pay for. I have connections with people, and I did not think that was possible for me. Like, I really like to think I'm, you know, a socially awkward person, but today I can walk into a room I held high and not have to, you know, kind of put a mask on to fit in. I can be me wherever I go, and that is a good feeling. Before I was whoever you wanted me to be, to make you like me, and today I like me enough that I don't have to change myself for you. I get to be a father, which is my favorite thing. I got to plan my daughter's birthday, and you know, I just getting to be a part of her life. All these things that I have today are no longer acceptable losses, and that for me is probably the best thing.
That's the best thing I could hear. I love you. It's like Oprah, right? Can I get him to cry? That was awesome, bro.
You deeply as a person.
I